Right, so let's take a look at this active attribute. Let me just tidy this up a bit. I'm just going to move these over to this side, so we're going to be working on this. So I'm going to drop an add here. And I want the add because I want to delete all of the geometry but keep the points. Okay, and basically the plan here is to use the Pyro tool, Pyro source spread, and what this is basically like a an infection solver. So we tell part of this again is a simulation, right? And in one section we'll say this part is hot, and then that will spread out in a kind of interesting way. What we'll do is say that whichever part is hot or is on fire, is burning, is active. So we'll have an interesting spread to our geometry. And I want to do that to the top and bottom separately. So the smaller pieces, I want them to become active a bit more, a bit earlier than the rest of the points, right? So let's first of all, we need a group. And the group will be the hot area. We can just call this temp, right? And we'll do, this group will be on the points and bounding regions. And it's going to be 20 by 20 by 20. And the location, -20, -3, just bringing it down a bit. 20, okay, so just grabbing that box on the side there. And then we need to attribute create, actually create that temperature attribute. And the group will be that temp that we just made. The name will be temperature. Okay, and that has to be temperature like that. It's going to be a points attribute. It will be a float, and the value we'll just set it to 1. Okay, so everything, we can visualize that here. Okay, so you can see this part is hot, the rest is cold. And then I'm going to split this. And I want to split out all the small, the small kind of pieces, right? So our name is small. There we go. So just these top parts. So basically, I want these to become active before the bigger pieces underneath. Small. Okay, so bring this Pyro spread over here. So that's going to read that hot, that temperature attribute. Okay, and if we visualize the burn here, so we can see that now. And if we press play, we might see it doing a little bit. You can see it's kind of working, but not really. So we need to make some adjustments in here so that it works. Okay. So in this in the fuel tab here, I'm going to just get rid of the noise. All right, so that it's just kind of that's not controlling the animation at all. And then in this temperature change, this is where most of the effect will come from. I'm going to drop this cooling rate down to 0 so that once these particles become hot, they stay hot. Okay, they don't cool down at all. I'm going to push the rate up to 2 so it can travel faster. Still, they're not traveling at all there. And the main thing here, we need to push up the search radius. I'm going to do that to 5. And there we go. You can see it's starting to work now. Okay, you see it's spreading. It's a bit more interesting than just like an expanding box or something like that. We can push up the max neighbors to make sure that we get everything. And again, I'm going to turn off the noise here as well. Okay. There we go. So spreading nice and fast. Just thinking about, over close to 80 frames that we want everything to be active. So, just under 100 frames, we got all the pieces active. So we'll have a nice kind of over, like 4 or 5 seconds. We've got everything fallen. It kind of slows down at the end, which would be interesting. Cool. Okay, so that's for the small pieces. And then for the big pieces here underneath, we're going to drop the rate down considerably to 0.03, I found worked. And then I had to push the radius up because these are more spread apart to 7. So let's just make sure that works. Okay, a bit more uniform, but still good. You can see that it's a bit slower. Maybe if we merge these together now. So again, as per usual, you know, you can play around with these values as you prefer, but basically that's what I'm looking for. I want these bits on top to be active before the ones underneath, so that, you know, it wouldn't make sense for the pieces underneath to just fall away and then these be kind of floating. That's really the danger, right? So now let's take a wrangle. So on these points now we'll have some attributes. On the points there you can see we've got this burn, and this burn is a float, and 1 is it's burning, 0 it's not. So that's useful because we can use that like an active attribute, right? So I at active is at burn. So this is a bit, again, a bit naughty. You can see we get an error there. So I'm casting from float to integer, so that's fine. You know, Houdini understands that. Change this to an integer and then set it to this active, right? So if we go to our active attribute, it is an integer, 0 or 1, whereas the burn is a float. We got this points there, right? The decimal place. Okay, and then I'm going to, I just want that active attributes transferred over here, right? Because we need the points and the geometry and everything. So what we do is get an attribute copy in here, plug that in there. Okay, just make sure we see that. Let me save this again. All right, and yeah, not interested in color. We want the active attributes. So just get rid of that color, and we want to match by attribute. So each name gets the points, the attribute from its corresponding point with the same name attributes, not piece. We don't have that attribute. We have the name attribute. Okay, you could also do an attribute transfer because they're not moving at this point, but this is more accurate. Okay, so just to check this, let's do a delete. Plug that in there. Set this to points. And check the active attribute. So at active is 1. And visualize that. So there we go. We can see that halfway through we got all the small pieces on top will be active. They'll be moving. And kind of these cracks will be opening up, but these big pieces won't be moving yet, not for a few frames, and then the big pieces become active and start to fall away. Okay, so you can play that through just to double check that it's all working okay. All right, just playing through. Just want to be, you know, I'm just checking that we don't have any floating pieces there. It's okay if we have one maybe like that, because, you know, the pieces around it won't have time to fall away before it becomes active there. We'll go maybe a couple of pieces towards the end there, but we'll see that in the, you know, we'll run a full simulation. Cool, so that is great. Let's plug these into the proxy geometry and this in here. I want to make a change to these, to this collider, because I want the pieces to fall, you know, I want this to be like a big cliff, right? So I want this to be kind of deeper down. So I'm going to object merge in the bounds as well. And what I'm going to do is another Boolean and set this to subtract. So right now it's going to be doing nothing. It's the same thing that we did before. It's subtracting, you know, that. But what I want to do is drop a transform here and just scale this up by 2. So basically make that kind of like deeper down like that. Okay, so we get like a cliff. you know, with the camera kind of up here. That should look pretty cool. And then just use that as our collider. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I think we can go ahead and bypass these delete nodes. Let me save it again. Okay, so that active attribute, as you can see here, will be picked up every frame. You see it's being overwritten on every frame. That's what it says there. So, you know, we get an animated active attribute. And just one thing, if we set this to static object, that should be a bit faster. Okay, so let's cache this out. So abd.io, geometry and the points. Geometry and points. Where should we save this? In the sim area. Okay, so new folder, terrain. Copy that, and let's call this, we're going to be doing a few sims here, so near the new folder, let's say main terrain, and I'll actually copy that, and then this will be our cache, so $f3.bgeo. Okay, and I think, let me just see how long it takes for everything to be active. I think we'll do like maybe like 200 frames, something like that. So they're already gone. Yeah. So the kind of last one's active there by frame 120. So yeah, I'll do like 200 frames, I think. Because it will, you know, it will take, you could see from those early tests that it's going to be a bit slower than the previous things that we did, or previous projects. Make sure to save your rest. Don't worry if you forget to do this, or if you do it wrong, you can do it after saving the points out. There's no problem in that. But I'm going to do it now. So save that. Save our project. Maybe reset the simulation to be safe. Okay, and then save this out. Okay, just got a flipbook of that here. And, you know, just looking out for anything weird, anything we don't like. And checking that everything's working. So there, just from that frame, you can see we've got cracks opening up ahead of the pieces that are falling. We've got big pieces falling just after that. We've got the pieces at the back as well sagging. So you can see these open cracks there. But they don't actually, you know, completely collapse. So we get a nice, interesting border, which is something that we were going for, that we wanted. Okay, great. So yeah, we can move on to debris next.